the left side of the line and at tackle working with the tight end than it is at right guard working on the outside zone step to the right side. It's a different look. You saw he got his eyes to the inside a little late, and the linebacker was able to run through. You see that a lot with zone blocking teams. You're going to see some of that this week with the Houston Texans, who are a total zone blocking team, or a predominantly zone blocking team in their running game. So moving him now, I can't tell you that he's going to be a star. I can't tell you he's going to be an upper half, an upper level NFL player. We don't know that, but I don't think that they've been very fair to the young man. Kyle T, you are exactly right on there. For a young man, once again, 22 years old, to have to learn 4 positions. No, and I guarantee you now, if you gave him a written test, he'd get 100% on them. But being able to do it against world-class athletes and doing it both to the right and left side, extraordinarily difficult for an experienced player.
Yeah, wow. Man, good discussion, guys. Good discussion. I'm going back to the 2013 season when we drafted Vaccaro. I'm just going to throw out some names to you. Desmond Trufant, Xavier Rhodes, Alec Ogletree, Kyle Long, Eric Reed. Wow, we had chances, and get this name, DeAndre Hopkins. We had chances at those guys, man. And we passed them up. But anyway, I hear you. I hear you, Bear.
Another one. I'll give you another one. They passed on Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback, who's now the backup for Tom Brady, and took Stanley Jean-Baptiste. So, could have had your heir apparent to Drew Brees. Instead, you wasted it on Stanley Jean-Baptiste. So there's another one for you.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, guys, let's progress it. And I wanted to at least talk about we already talked about Kasim Edebali. He's done a pretty good job. Man, I'm still – maybe it's me. I need help on it, and I need help from my panel. I'm not sold on James Laurinaitis. Maybe I'm wrong, but Edebali cleaned up that sack that Laurinaitis should have had, but I don't really see Laurinaitis being an impact player. Am I wrong, guys?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
You
Okay.
go first. Go.
All right.
Yeah, I think impact play. He is an upgrade. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Now you're comparing an 8-year pro with a rookie that we had last year. And we have to remember Stephon Anthony was the leading rookie tackler in the league last year. So he's a solid player. But Laurinaitis is showing more athletic ability. He showed more athletic ability the other night than I thought he had. He's healthier than he was last year. He's there all the time. Has not missed a start in his previous 7 years. So he shows up. He's a warrior. He gets people in the right places. He makes sure that there's coordination between the front and the coverage. That's part of the operation as well. So am I sold on James Laurinaitis as a 3-down linebacker? No, I am not. I think in nickel and dime situations that he's probably not going to be there, even though he was the other night. But as a first and second down linebacker, especially when you have to improve your run defense dramatically. Remember, the Saints were last in the league last year in average yards per rush at 4.9. The Saints have got to improve that, and that's going to be a main point of emphasis for Laurinaitis. So it's I think, Kyle T, your concern is merited, but it's something that we've got to have a further concentration on as we go forward.
Well, Coach, I thought you were about to do James Brown. Got to. Hey!
I was channeling my inner James Brown.
You got your inner James going on. I said, good God.
Subconscious. That's coming from my unconscious.
Coach was
You
like,
know what, Kyle and Dan, Barry, here's the deal. Once again, it's the same point before. And I think it's a bit, I'm like Dad, I think it's a bit too early still have to watch and see. He's only played one quarter of preseason. But unfortunately, here's the thing with this. I'm telling you, something is going on with this thing. And they're, for whatever reason, free agents, when they come here, sometimes don't work out. And I'm not saying that about Larry Nice because he hasn't played it down. A regular season game. But the Saints' ability, even when they get free agents, a lot of this stuff now is also tied into systems. Because you're seeing that when players leave one team and they go to another, it also depends upon who they're playing around and who they're playing with. They may look brilliant in one system, then they look like a dud or just an average player in the other. You've got to look at the trends and the patterns with the New Orleans Saints and signing defensive free agents. Jabari Greer, check, it worked out. Jonathan Vilma, check, it worked out. Then just like it got here, hush. You can't say too many others that really worked out. I'm hoping Laurinaitis works out. Keenan Lewis came in like gang fires his first year. He was just like, okay, we got a potential all-pro cornerback. Unfortunately, Keenan, and get well, Keenan. Please get well. We wish you well. Now, we don't know if we're going to have him. His career might be in jeopardy. We don't know what's going on with the hip and the surgeries and everything. So I'm just praying for Keenan. They just don't work out. They got the kid from, I can't remember, way back from Chicago. He came on the line. Didn't work out. I don't know why. The Saints, to me, is just a strange element. Some people like to say strange vibe energy that happens to the Saints first and second rounders. And the same statement seems to hold true with their free agents that they try to pick up on defense. Brandon Browner, we saw what a catastrophe that turned out.
No, that wasn't catastrophe, man, was it?
I mean, he looked horrible in the Saints uniform. He played adequately in New England. I mean, he was still getting penalties, but he didn't look that bad in New England like he looked in the Saints uniform. He didn't look that bad, but it's the players around him.
What Coach alluded to and what you're talking about, Coach, maybe he looked good in New England and played well in New England because he had a disciplined system or he knew he was going to be disciplined in that system.
That's my point. I was waiting for one of the three of you to say this, and I'm going to say it. I'm not going to even beat around the bush. Coach Sean Payton has a discipline problem that is coming from as a head, as a person that runs organizations and deal with finances. If there's a problem with my staff, then there's a problem with me as the leader. The New Orleans Saints do not want to deal with the fact with 279 records, and I told you, I don't want to hear it because I didn't want him to come back. I love Coach Payton, but I think he's exhausted his time. The Saints have a problem at the top, and it is cascaded down into the teams, and they're bringing in new players and all that, and it's still showing up, as Barry stated earlier in the show. This team is not disciplined. As Coach stated, too, about Tyrann Mathieu, why the Saints could not pick him, because Coach Payton did not feel he and his staff could discipline Tyrann Mathieu. So the Saints, in the words of Jimmy the Greek, remember how they used to put the checks on this side, intangibles and all of that, and discipline usually being the one under intangibles? The Saints in the era of intangibles, they're getting an F. They could not conform Joe Morgan and the problems he had. You could not, deal with Jimmy Graham and the things he wanted to do, so you shipped him out. And as a result of the inability to discipline your team, and you have talented players, you're having two shifts going. You're bringing them in and out, so there's no continuity. You're bringing them in and out, and great players that could help you win, you can't keep them because you want to set an example. And now that discipline area is having a severe effect on the New Orleans Saints. And this Coach Payton has to look in the eyes at whatever's going on with him, whether it be personal or professionally, I don't know. He has to look at what discipline is he exhibiting to his team. Are you allowing some people to get away with stuff and others not? Because one thing I don't see, and in some of these games, when the Saints have the momentum and have the opportunity to put teams away, Drew Brees throws an interception. I have not seen him yet getting Drew Brees behind on some of these games over the last 2 years, where he changed the momentum of a game with his interception. And that has leaked out in some of the players, in some of the press. That there's two different systems with the Saints. One Drew Brees lives under, and one the other teams live under. And you can't have that. And so we've got to figure out what is this discipline problem that we cannot get discipline in our game when we're playing on all areas, and why we cannot be disciplined in the players that we might want to select that we don't feel comfortable enough that we're not going to be able to keep them under wraps. Same thing with, the guy from Ole Miss, Kim Dichie. He's going out to Arizona too, because evidently, like Coach stated, that coach out there knows how to discipline, because the elements of drugs, alcohol, and party is everywhere and available to everybody. It's in New Orleans, it's in Phoenix, it's in New York, it's everywhere. But whatever these coaches, New England and Arizona and Seattle, are doing, because these, and Green Bay, these four organizations have become the most consistent and successful organizations over the last 4 years. And the Saints were once in that category. In some kind of way, we've fallen off the boat, and we need to get back into the ship and sail back into getting that discipline under control.
Good point. And, Sean Payton, you heard it from the professor. You got to look at the man in the mirror. Oh, yeah. It's time to make a change. Okay. I thought that was going to get a better response, but
we just listening to you, Michael Jackson.
Yeah, well, you've already invoked James Brown and Michael Jackson in the same show, so that's probably worked out.
Look, you guys are going for the trifecta. We got to get one more before we leave off the air. All right, guys, let's just go around right quick. Coach, give me one guy who is a surprise or somebody we need to keep an eye on in this Texans game. One guy.
Nate Stupar. He's doing an exceptional job at outside linebacker and really solidifying his place on this football team, not just in special teams, which he specialized in Atlanta, but in his ability to play that weak side linebacker position. Because when Daniel Ellaby is there, the Saints defense has been effective, but we all know that he's had difficulty staying on the field. Nate Stupar might play a very important role for the Saints this year.
Okay. Barry, one guy who you are going to be paying attention to in this Texans game.
We'll be looking at number 55, defensive end, Davis Tull, the redshirt rookie out of Tennessee, Chattanooga, who I have officially put on the Saints roster bubble in my article yesterday. He's basically been a no-show in camp, not because he hadn't come to practice, but because he hadn't done nothing. I'm probably going to be writing an article here in a few days or maybe a few weeks before the season starts, which will be entitled The Biggest Disappointments, the 5 biggest disappointments of training camp, or whatever I title it. And the number one guy that's going to be on my list is Davis Tull. Here's a kid who 3-time conference player of the year at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. I even compared his film or his first step off the snap of the football as far as his edge pass rushing skills. And Pat Swilling, to the legendary Dome Patrol linebacker who was an All-American defensive end at Georgia Tech in the early 1980s. Davis Tull had a phenomenal college career, and that's who he reminded me of when you look at the film. He reminds me of Pat Swilling. Just an incredible burst, quick snap as soon as that ball is snapped. It hasn't translated to the pros. I don't know why. He has flashed a few times in camp, but